It was a cold morning in downtown Chicago, the kind of morning where the air bit through every layer of clothing. People hurried past one another, clutching coffee cups and pulling their coats tighter. On the corner of 5th and Main sat a woman wrapped in an old blanket, her hair tangled, her hands trembling slightly as she held a cardboard sign. The sign simply read, "Just need a second chance." Every day, people passed her without a glance. Some looked at her with pity, others with disgust. But she had grown used to it. To most, she was invisible, just another homeless woman trying to survive. What no one knew was that behind those tired eyes was a woman who once owned one of the most successful companies in the city. Her name was Clara Morgan. 5 years ago, she was the CEO of a multi-million-dollar tech firm. She had a family, a home overlooking the skyline, and everything people dream of. But in one tragic twist of fate, her entire world collapsed. A car accident took the lives of her husband and son. Overcome by grief, she made one mistake after another. She trusted the wrong people, and within months, her company was stolen out from under her. Now, Clara lived on the streets, her only companions being the pigeons that gathered near her corner every morning. She didn't beg aggressively or complain. She just sat quietly, waiting for a miracle she had stopped believing in long ago. One afternoon, as she sat under the awning of a cafe, a man in an expensive suit came out, laughing into his phone. He spotted Clara and sneered. "Look at this," he said loudly, pointing at her as if she were part of some cruel joke. "This city's full of people like her, lazy, useless." People nearby laughed nervously, but Clara said nothing. She just looked at him, calm, unshaken. The man's name was Ethan Wallace, a wealthy investment banker known for his arrogance. He was on his way to a meeting, proud of his success, unaware that his life was about to take a turn he would never forget. As Ethan stepped off the curb to cross the street, a speeding car came out of nowhere. The driver had lost control, swerving wildly toward the crosswalk. Without a second of hesitation, Clara threw herself forward, grabbing Ethan by the arm and pulling him out of the way. The car screeched past, missing them by inches. The phone flew out of Ethan's hand. He stood frozen, his heart pounding. The woman he had mocked moments earlier had just saved his life. People gathered around, asking if he was okay. Clara, breathing heavily, just nodded and went back to her corner, as if nothing had happened. Ethan couldn't move. He watched her sit down again, her blanket wrapped tightly around her shoulders. For the first time in years, he felt something he hadn't felt before, shame. He picked up his phone, but he couldn't bring himself to make his next call. Instead, he approached her. You saved my life," he said awkwardly. Clara smiled faintly. "You don't need to thank me. Just, be kind next time you see someone like me." Those words stayed with him all night. Ethan couldn't sleep. He kept seeing her face, calm and full of quiet strength. The next morning, he returned to that same corner with a cup of coffee and a bag of food. She thanked him politely, but her eyes still carried sadness. Over the next few days, Ethan began to visit regularly. He asked her name, and she told him, Clara. He noticed the way she spoke, her vocabulary, her posture. There was something dignified about her, something that didn't fit her situation. Curious, he asked gently, "You seem different. What happened?" At first, Clara hesitated. But slowly, she told him everything, the accident, the betrayal, losing everything she'd built. Ethan listened, silent. For once, the man who always had something clever to say couldn't find words. He returned to his office that day with a heavy heart. Her story haunted him. He couldn't stop thinking about how someone so intelligent, so strong, could end up forgotten by society. That evening, he pulled out his laptop and started searching her name. When the results appeared, his eyes widened. There she was, Clara Morgan, former CEO of Morgan Tech Innovations. Dozens of articles, interviews, photos of her at conferences and charity events. She wasn't just anyone, she was once a respected leader, a pioneer. Ethan sat back in his chair, overwhelmed. The homeless woman he had laughed at was a woman who had once shaped the very industry he worked in. The next day, he approached her again, holding one of the printed articles. "Clara," he said quietly, "is this you?" She looked at the paper, her eyes softening. It used to be, she said simply. Ethan's voice broke. I'm so sorry, he whispered. I had no idea. Clara gave a small smile. You weren't supposed to. That's how people are. We only see what's on the surface. He couldn't leave her there. That night, he made a decision. He contacted an old friend who ran a women's shelter and arranged a safe place for Clara to stay. When he told her, she resisted at first. You don't have to do this, she said. I'm fine. But Ethan insisted. Please. It's the least I can do. She finally agreed, and for the first time in years, she slept in a warm bed. Days turned into weeks, and with Ethan's help, Clara began to rebuild. She cleaned up, found work at a community center, and started counseling sessions. The spark that had been buried under years of pain slowly returned. One morning, Ethan invited her to his office. I have something to show you, he said. On his desk was a proposal, a business plan inspired by one of her old patents. I think it's time we brought Morgan Tech back, he said with a grin. Clara was speechless. You want me to lead this? I want you to own it again, Ethan replied. You deserve it. Tears welled in her eyes. She had lost everything, but somehow, through an unexpected act of kindness, her life had turned around. Months later, Morgan Tech Innovations 2.0 was launched, this time, as a company focused on helping underprivileged women get back on their feet. Clara stood on the stage during the reopening, her name once again shining on the banner behind her. In the audience sat Ethan, smiling proudly. He remembered that cold morning, the laughter, the arrogance, and the woman who had changed his life forever. After the ceremony, reporters asked Clara what she had learned from her journey. She looked into the cameras and said, never underestimate someone just because of how they look. Everyone you meet has a story, and sometimes, the person you ignore might be the one who saves you. Her words echoed across social media, inspiring thousands. People who once scrolled past the homeless began to look twice, to see the humans behind the hardship. And as for Ethan, he never laughed at another stranger again. Every time he walked past someone in need, he remembered the woman who had once been invisible, until she revealed who she really was. Years later, Clara and Ethan remained close friends, business partners, and living proof that compassion can change everything. The woman who once sat in silence on a street corner had rebuilt not just her life, but her purpose, reminding the world that kindness costs nothing but can mean everything.